Hello, I'm Jason Connolly, CEO of JMC Legal Recruitment, a national and international legal recruitment agency. I'm recording this video with my top tips for interviewing at a law firm as a lawyer. First of all, I'll start at the top. One of the most important things to do is to read the job specification. The job specification is a wish list a lot of the time and a shopping list of what that firm or in-house company is looking for. In the interviewer's mind, as they're going through the interview, they'll be ticking off in their mind what are the boxes you match against in terms of the job specification. So what you want to do is ultimately sell against the job specification. So as you're going through the interview, in the interviewer's mind, they're thinking tick, 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 this is someone that meets all of the criteria of the job. Often it's a misconception that a candidate needs to meet all of the criteria in a job specification. It is a wish list rather than a shopping list, so firms can deviate, and ultimately personality is a massive selling point. Make sure that you research the business. It's very important to know the business that you're interviewing for. Get to understand online what their culture is, what events do they have, what is it that really makes that organisation tick. Researching the business can also be looking at the partners' profiles that you're interviewing at. Have a look at their profile. If they've done any YouTube videos, make sure that you view those. The reason why YouTube videos can be so important when going for an interview is it gives you an insight into the personality of the interviewer, how they came across, how they even communicate and talk. And having that kind of insight before can be absolute gold in actually knowing how to communicate and interact with the person that's interviewing you. Looking at the partners' profiles can also give you a background in terms of the type of work they've done. You might even find that there's synergy between your background and that of the interviewers. You might have, for instance, gone to the same university. You might have studied similar things in law. All of those things and those common kind of grounds can be really good for you when talking to the partner about what they do. Make sure that you try to mirror the mood of the interviewer. What I mean by mirroring the mood of the interviewer is if that person comes across quite softly spoken, try to mirror that, try to come across in a similar way. If you're quite an eccentric and an extrovert and you're going into someone that might be somewhat of an introvert, sometimes that can not always interact well. But that again, that could be a consideration for you going for that job in the first place. Know your experience. It sounds basic and you would think that of course you know your experience, you've worked there, but once you've got to a point in your career where you've maybe had a couple of moves around, you're 10 years into your career, knowing your experience is key. Get to know the dates. How long was you in each of your roles for? What was it you did? How was it you progressed? If you went into one role as a associate and then rose up to being a senior associate, how did you do that? What time did that take? How long was it till you got that progression? Business development is often a big keyword when it comes to lawyers, and when we sometimes register candidates, one of the main reactions we hear when we say, what do you do in terms of business development, is I attend networking events. That seems to be one of the go-to answers, but most of the time I would always say that you want to expand on that. It's about this comes down to, at the end of the day, pounds, pence and shillings. And if you've gone to business development events, what have you done there? What work have you introduced? Have you increased workflows? Have you brought in new clients? What is it you've done to actually drive business is very important. Billings are really important. I always tell candidates to make sure you sell yourself to your total worth. Now, billings, let's say for instance that we have two conveyancers. Each conveyancer bills 200,000, but that number can look very different depending on things such as what capacity you're working to, what support do you have, what case management do you use, how much do you even charge per file, what does that figure actually break down to? So an easy example would be a conveyancer's currently working to 50% capacity. The instant reaction would be, well, what's their total worth and potential? It could be 400k because in your next role you might work closer to 100% capacity. You always want to sell yourself on your potential, not just on what the situation is currently. So breaking down billings, even to the point of what is it you refer over to other departments. As a senior lawyer, what is it you refer down to juniors? And sometimes it can be, what do you refer up to partners? Breaking down that billings figure is essential to sell you on your total worth, What is your full potential? What you always sell on when going into another role is the potential. It isn't just the now. Soft skills really sell. Talking about what relationships you've built with clients, talking about things like rapport that you've built, referrals that you get, great work sources is really going to help you. What is the key message you want to get across in this interview? Always think, what is it that really sells you and what is the message you're trying to deliver? If this is a role that's going to place you at the forefront of corporate transactions, what is it that you've done in your background that sells you into this role? Is it you've dealt with more responsibility at a more junior level of PQE? Is it you've worked alongside a partner on some cutting edge deals? Whatever it is, you want to make sure you get that key message across. And I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a notepad with some bullet points into an interview with you. I always say when it comes to money, it's a very British thing that we don't like talking about money. I would personally always leave that to an experienced recruiter to have that conversation for you. I think that money is one of these things where it's a very hard subject to broach. It can be very difficult for someone to come across in the right way where money is discussed. I would always personally leave that, keep the conversation positive, and leave things like the salary negotiations to your recruiter. I think you always want to think about at the start of an interview, how is it this role fits into your overall career plan? I often tell candidates to look at their career as a 5 and 10 year plan. What is it they're trying to achieve? What is the ultimate aim? If where you ultimately want to be is, let's say, a corporate partner, how does this next role fit into that plan? If you know where you want to be in 10 years' time, the best thing to do is to back plan. How is it, what roles you need to do to get to that place? And by back planning, you should be able to work out, is this next role that you're going for going to be, is it going to fit into your plan? Obviously, when we deal with candidates here at JMC Legal Recruitment, we will always give people specific things to focus on when it comes to interviewing. We look at the strength of a candidate, what makes them right for the role, and we will always take the time to go into detail. But this is just a brief snapshot on my top tips for interviewing as a lawyer at a law firm.